Hello Aqua friends, welcome to my channel. My name is Nicole and today I have a wonderful winter scene that we're going to do. So lots of blues, snow-covered trees, and it's going to be really fun and relaxing, so let's get into it. We are going to start off wet on wet, and we are going to wet our paper really well. Starting off with a light wash of the cobalt, and I'm using quinacridone scarlet with a little bit of yellow for an orangey glow. Now, tilting your paper does help the paint spread with the gravity. And I'm putting down the shadows of the trees and the darker parts that I see in the foreground. So a little bit more concentrated color of the cobalt blue. I'm just adding the darker parts that I see in the reference photo. So I'm just adding in the vegetation that's under the snow. And then I'm going to let that whole first layer dry. So now that that first layer is dry, we are going to add the midground, and we're going to do the trees in the same cobalt blue. We'll be bringing in Peruvian blue for the dark parts and for the shadows. Now coming in for the tree layer, there is a little bit of a mountain in the background. So I'm going to pre-wet that area, and then with a light wash of the cobalt blue, I'm putting in the dark areas that I'm seeing, leaving some light areas for snow. The midground is distant trees, and notice that I'm leaving a gap for the foreground trees. And so I'm just going to keep going, wetting my paper as I go and adding the cobalt blue. Now, this is when I'm coming in with the Persian blue. This is going to be the shadows, the darker parts that we see in the forest and that distant forest line. And then I'm working on the other side of the foreground trees, working in the same manner, starting with the cobalt, coming in with the Persian blue. Now for the main attraction, we're going to do the foreground trees, and we're going to work them in the same way using the cobalt blue. That's going to be our light blue, our snow. And then while everything is still nice and wet, we're going to come in with that Persian blue to get the structure of the tree. And they're going to bleed together a little bit. You'll have soft edges and hard edges, and it's going to be really pretty. So let's get started on that. All right, so now we're on to the foreground trees. I kind of like to use a very watery mixture and sort of just use water. My water's quite dirty, but that's okay because my trees are going to be blue. And put in the watery mixture of the trees where I'm going to put the trees. Now they are sun-kissed, so I'm adding a little bit of that peachy color. And then the darker parts of the tree, I'm going to add under the snow. So the darker parts are my Persian blue that I'm adding underneath the layer that I just put on. Now everything is still wet a little bit, and so they will mingle together, and they'll have some soft effects, some hard edges here and there, which adds a lot of interest to the trees. Moving on to the largest tree, I'm working it in the same manner. As you can see, I have a very watery mixture that I'm just putting the outline of the tree in. It's kind of like your road map of where the tree is going to be. Adding in that warm peachy color. And then the blue of the tree. This is the Persian blue, so I'm adding in the darker parts of the tree. And I'm going underneath the lighter blue. I wanted to increase that saturation of the peachy color of that sun shining through. So I'm adding that color, and then you want to lift a little bit of the rays, and so that it looks like the rays are shining through. My last tree is stooped over a little bit. I love this tree. So working in the same way, wanting that peachy color for the light shining through the trees, then going with my light blue. And straight away into the Persian blue. So now I'm adding a little bit of those underbrushes coming through the snow. This adds a little bit of detail in the foreground, and I think it really brings a lot to the painting. I'm using a script liner brush for this, and then we're going to let that whole thing dry. And for the final stage, we're going to do a beautiful glaze with that same peachy pink color, and we're going to lay it down on the snow and just increase that saturation around the trees a little bit. And that is it. It was a super easy project, and let's get started on that final stage. All right, now that it's all dry, where I want that nice warm peachy pink color, I'm wetting my paper. And I'm gonna lay down a little bit of a darker peachy color. I really want that showing through and shining on the snow. And see how that just kind of brings everything together, makes it pop. And of course, I'm also making sure I don't lose my sun rays, so I'm putting those back in. I hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you like my artwork, please subscribe, and I will see you guys next week.